Thank you for that amazing introduction.
Amazing one.
CSL family, I am so excited to be here with you today. In fact, there's no place else I would rather be than right here, right now, with you all. Happy Easter, and if you don't celebrate Easter, happy spring. Easter and spring both come to teach us the same message, and they both have a call to action for us to embody the message of what they're both bringing. With Easter, it's about the celebration of the resurrection of Jesus the Christ. With spring, it's a season of new life, of blossom, of rebirth. And just like with Easter, before the resurrection, Jesus had the hardest time of his life. He surrendered to his death. With spring, right before that, the trees surrender their leaves to the earth. Perennial plants surrender their entire being to be born again in the spring. And we can think about the life that we want to live that's different than the life that we're living now, what a new us would look like, what a new life would look like, and we could get in the trenches and we can work to get it. Or we could follow the advice of Easter and spring and surrender and know that on the other side of that surrender is a life anew for us. So how do we surrender is the question. It's a process. And that's what this talk is about today. There are 3 steps that I found to surrender. The first is knowing that you are not the ego. The second is believing and trusting in a greater purpose, picture than you can see today, a divine plan. And the third and final step is living in constant daily communion with your intuition or your higher self or your higher power. So before I jump into what those steps are and how to take them, what is surrender? One definition of surrender is to hand over or to give up your person, your rights, or your possession. I kind of agree with that, but I think the best way to surrender is just to let it be. And that brings us to the first point of knowing that you are not the ego. The ego has a problem with what is. So it's very hard for the ego to just let things be. The ego's job is to protect us. It thinks we're separate. It forgets that there's one source, and that source is in all of us, and that we're just in these bodies right now, but we are all one. It forgets that. And it also has a problem with everything that is. It talks about what's right, what's wrong. If this thing feels good, if this thing feels bad, I like this, I don't like that, do this, don't do that. It always has something to say. But we are not the ego. So then who are we? We are the witness. We are the witness consciousness. The metaphysical Bible dictionary defines the resurrection as the rising of man's mind and body from sense to spiritual consciousness. So sense is our ego, is our body, the things we can feel, touch, taste, all of that. But we really are just the people or the person that is watching this movie unfold. And it's hard because how many people here have been at a movie and we're only watching it with 2 senses, right? Our eyes and our ears. and something happens and then we jump. Has anybody experienced that? So you're totally engrossed in this movie. And it's harder because the movie we're engrossed in, it has all of our senses and we can think about it and we can change what happens. But we're not that. How many of us had a good night's sleep last night? Just by a show of hands. Okay, so for everybody who had a good night's sleep, I'm glad you did. For those that didn't, hopefully tonight's different. But the point is, how do you know how you slept? Especially those who said that they had a good night's sleep and you got that REM sleep and you were totally unconscious to the world. How do you know that you slept well if you were not there witnessing yourself sleep? People who have near-death experiences, they say, I saw myself leaving my body. Or they tell about an experience that they had when they were dead and they chose to come back. How did they know? They're seemingly dead, right? Because we are not this body. We are not our thoughts. We are the awareness, that higher consciousness that is divine, that animates everything that we are. So if we remember that daily and just say, I am not this, I am not this, I'm just watching this movie, we can choose not to get wrapped up in it. And once we choose not to get wrapped up in it, we can do the second step, which is to trust and believe in a bigger picture. That means that right now we are just one brush stroke in the divine's beautiful masterpiece. And that's all we can see is this brush stroke in this moment right now. We don't know the millions of brush strokes the divine took before, and we don't know the millions of brush strokes that will come after. We just have to have faith and believe without a doubt that there is something divine happening, and it's a beautiful masterpiece, and that even if it doesn't feel like it right now in our life, that life is happening for us, for the evolution of our soul, for the evolution of something that's greater to come. We just have to trust. And to give you an example of that, just picture this. It's time when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, and two T-Rexes are squaring up to fight. One digs his leg backwards into the bedrock, and his nail puts a hole into the rock before he lunges at the other T-Rex. Rah. That's that small little crack in the bedrock, over thousands of years of weathering, breaks open, and it forms a great lake. Humanity comes, and they go around this lake and build their tribes, their villages, everything, because the lake gives life. Fast forward to now. Around this great lake, because of capitalism and people liking to do things at the lake, there's stores and shops and bars around this lake. The weatherman says that it's going to be a beautiful day. So everybody goes out with their paddle boards and they're ready to have fun on this lake, but in comes torrential downpour. So they run into the nearest hike shop or shop for paddle boards or whatever it is that you could do on this lake. And there, a woman meets the love of her life, and they live happily ever after. That one moment in time would not have been possible if it wasn't for the thousands of years in the making for that moment to occur. But they don't know that. They just see, oh, this is a chance encounter. Nothing is chance. It is all planned. So we must believe in the plan. And once we do, it's a practice. The first two steps are a practice. Constantly remembering you're not the ego. Constantly remembering to trust in the plan. Get rid of the doubts. Because the doubts are just the ego thinking, well, this isn't going to work, trying to keep you safe. When you master those two and you keep practicing, it allows you to have those glimpses into the third step of surrender, which is living in constant communion with your higher self, with the essence of who you truly are, the spirit that animates your body. So what does that look like? What does that mean? It means that we surrender to everything that is, and we stay there, so that way we don't have to say, is this my mind telling me I shouldn't do this? Or is this the ego? Or is this God? What, the universe? What's the plan? And you're guessing and you're frazzled and you're running around. When we can live from that higher seat of consciousness, we'll know what the next thing to do is, because we're divinely guided. So, it is a practice in surrender. And I just want to invite you all to take on that challenge, to surrender, to remember you're not that ego, and practice it daily. To trust the process, to trust that there is a bigger, brighter picture daily, and to have more time in that divine seat of consciousness. Earlier this month, I was reading something from The Science of Mind magazine, where Eugene Holden said something, and I think it's beautiful. So I invite you all to repeat this after me so we can surrender together here. So say, I let go and let Spirit guide and direct my life. I surrender to the power that beats my heart and breathes my breaths. I let go of everything that no longer serves me. I trust, and at this you can say whatever it is, your higher power, spirit, universe, but I trust in God. So, now that we've all agreed to surrender and let things go and let things just be, so we can tune into the higher self and know which way to go. Remember that it's a practice, so practice daily. Don't get discouraged, because practice makes progress, and progress makes permanent. And on the other side of that surrender and that practice is a life anew, a new you. And I know that much is true, because I've been struggling with surrender for months now. But the days that I get it, things seem completely different, and I'm seeing life with eyes anew, because it's from who I truly am. So I invite you to see life and to step into who you all truly are. Thank you.